Hi, welcome to my weekly Casing the Catalog video and blog. I'm Kate with Kate's Paper Creations. I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Washington State. I offer these videos free and ask that if you do not have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator that you consider shopping with me as I sell the products used in these demonstrations. Today I am featuring the Quite Curvy Variety Bundle. It went live November 3rd. Today is the 6th, so it is available until January 4th, I believe it is. And it's got so many cool things. So Curvy Christmas is one of the pieces in that variety pack. It has all these wonderful curvy sayings and designs. And then there's the Quite Curvy stamp set, which is also a part of it. Some more curvy sayings and some more fun things. And this comes with the option to get a bundle with the curvy dies that cut out the various pieces, the little birds and this piece. And so that is part of the pack. It also has some paper that's called, let's see if I can find it here. DSP, just classic Christmas DSP. It's a 6x6 pack of designer series paper. I did not use that particular paper, but I used the 'Tis the Season designer series paper, which is also a 6x6 that's available in the current mini catalog. So this is the card I'm making, and let's get started. I began with a 5.5 by 8.5 scored at 4 1/4 piece of thick Whisper White. I'm going to burnish that. And this is going to be a top fold card, so it's going to open like this. Piece of glue there. Okay, then I cut 2 pieces of the designer series paper, 3/4 of an inch wide by, I'm going to get my measurement sheet, just a minute. I'm going to walk away. I forgot to have my little cheat sheet close by here, so I'm back so that we can get you all of the measurements. So these are 3/4 of an inch wide by 4 1/4 inches tall. So they're the full size of the card front from top to bottom. And we're going to attach those with just regular adhesive, which I buried. There it is. So let's attach those to the front of the card. And they are going to line up evenly with the edge of the card and the top and the bottom. Just like that. You're gonna love this suite. If you haven't seen it, you need to take some time and go look it up online at the store and see all the beautiful things you can do. So I did that first. Now this is a way to just conserve. You could make a layer that covers the whole front of the card, which is what I did initially when I was making it, and then I got done making the original card and I go, oh, I'm just being wasteful with my DSP. I could make so many more cards. So then I came up with this idea. Then this layer is going to go on here like this. It's a Whisper White layer. It is 4 by 4 1/4. So it'll again go from top to bottom, but it needs to have some edges on it that are red, as you can see in this sample. And so what I did with this is I put some adhesive up the back like this, and then I attached these to it, just leaving about 1/4 of an inch border. So it looks like that. And then I am going to attach this. Well, let's stamp it first. Let's stamp it first. So I'm going to use this stamp. If you can see it, it's kind of a fir bough, evergreen bough stamp. And that's what I'm going to use to make this wreath design that you see here. Now the way I got that so I would have a keep it round is I just took one of the layering circles dies. This one is the one that is 3 inches across, and I just centered it on my card front here on this piece, what I call my art piece, and I am going to just trace around it with very lightly with a pencil. This is not, the pencil mark won't show up when we're done, you'll see. Good enough. So that just gives me something to keep me thinking in the round. And I'm using garden green because that's the color in this particular DSP that I'm using. And you can see that the stamp already has a little bit of a curve to it. So that's going to lend itself to making this wreath. Now, you can stamp it off or use it full strength. And this one that you see, my sample, I stamped it off once before I stamped it on here, and then I stamped it a third time without re-inking. So that's what I'm going to do for this one. So I ink it, stamp off, stamp, move it a little bit, stamp. Ink, stamp off, stamp, stamp. Ink, stamp off, stamp, stamp. Ink, stamp off, stamp, stamp. And I'm double stamping, get out of pattern here. Ink, stamp off, stamp, stamp. Ink, stamp off, stamp, stamp. And you can see I was able to maintain the circular look. Okay, and you can always add more if you want to. If you wanted to add some darker, you could go and just add a little bit of darker, and you could play with that a little bit and see. I will show you. I did one where I didn't stamp off, so I stamped it original and then a second time, and I felt like it was just a little too muddy looking, and so that's why I opted for this. So it's a matter of taste, and you'll have to decide what you want to do. That is that part. Then I used cherry cobbler, and put that out of the way. And this is just the little dotted stamp that's in the Curvy Christmas stamp set. And it's kind of got a little bit of a curve to it too. And I just added full strength little berries all the way around. There's those lovely holly berries all the way around. That's what they look like. So there's that piece. Now I am going to attach this to the front of my card, and I'm just attaching it flat. And just centering it from left to right, and it's even from top to bottom. Just like that. So there's the basic front of the card. Now comes the tricky part. This is one of the dies in the die set, the curvy dies, and it makes this lovely edge that you see here. When you use it once, like this, it has an edge that cuts off the excess. So then when I was looking at the sample, I'm going, okay, how did they get it twice? Because you can't turn it over. It won't match. It's got to go the same way. So this is what I did. I cut it the first time like that, and I kept track of how it was set on here. So like on this side, there's 1, 2, 3 holes off of the page, and on this side, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 holes off the side of the page. So I know where I laid it. And this piece of cherry cobbler is 5 1/4 by just 2 1/2. It's plenty of room to do it. So then you got your first edge. Now I want a second. I want a second section. Now when I put this on here and cut it out, it's going to look like this because it cuts it off. So after I've cut it, can you see that? It leaves this behind, and this is what you end up with. So now I've got to get this cutout design, and there's a piece there that needs to be knocked out. Let me get my little pokey tool. Sorry for the distraction. There we go. I want to create another strip, and I want a strip like this. Now there's 2 ways you can do this. One way is to keep track, like I said, how many holes you've got, so I know where so it follows the exact same curve. And I just put it on here, and I wanted about 5/8 of an inch spacing and in between them. So I figured out where I wanted it like that, and then I taped it down and ran it through a second time. That created this piece so that I have this piece ready to go. Okay, that's how I did that. Then to create this piece, I took the piece that was left behind. I hope I'm not too confusing. And there's a couple of ways you can do this. You could do it with this piece and just get this really close and tape it down and run it through and have this piece left behind when it cuts it off. Or you can just take your scissors, and if you look, you can't see it in the video, I am sure, but there's a little tiny indentation there. And if you took your scissors, you could cut that and freehand it, and that's actually what I did with this one. So anyway, you want to come up with this separate. Then I'm going to attach it, and this little thin edge is going to get glued on to the front of this piece that I made. Now, I did that with my glue pen, my Zig 2-way glue pen. And I just, it's got a little glue on it, there we go. Made very tiny dot all the way across, just as close to that edge as I could get, because you're not catching very much. It's pretty narrow like that. And then I laid this on there and just followed it follows the curve naturally because I've already cut it to match, and get it stuck down and hold it so it stays till it sets a little bit. And you just want to make sure that when you attach it, those holes show, that they're not covering up, they're not moving up into the, let me get a piece of white to put this against, so you can see how the holes still show. So it looks like it was made that way, that it came out that way all by itself. So it's a little bit tricky, but it works. And you can see it's just a little bit off here, but I've got plenty of length, so I'm going to just trim it so it looks nice. Like that. And like that. And there's my piece ready to go. Okay, now I am going to stamp the sentiment with Versamark ink. And I know that Stampin' Up! Discontinued our embossing buddies, which is basically just an anti-static tool, but I still have many, and I'm going to use that to put on here to keep embossing powder from sticking where I don't want it. I'm going to be turning on my heat tool, so you're going to hear that noise in the background, and I am going to stamp the sentiment with Versamark, and I'm keeping it towards the right end of the stamp and just laying it in there where the curve is at, stamping it down, and then we will put some embossing powder on it, and this is just white embossing powder. Stampin' Up! Used to sell these trays as well, and obviously you can do this on some paper and just pick up the paper and pour it back into the cup, but this is what I have. And so that's ready to go. Bring in the heat tool, and we will heat set that powder. I've got to kind of hold it under my light to make sure I've got it all melted. Yeah, I do. Okay. So there's that. Not too hard to do. And then I attached this to the front of my card with dimensionals. And I put quite a few of them on there. Just ran them right down the center. When you're putting these on, if you just poke your finger in the center, your fingernail in the center, they will, I didn't space those very well. I'm going to put another one on the end. It pops up that topping, so it's easy to pull off and get rid of. And bring in the card. And it's a little bit longer than I want it, so I'm going to shorten it up a little bit on this end. And let's just take off a little bit. And let's put another dimensional there so that that end is supported. There, that's better. I like that better. And stick it on. Like that. Now they had some ribbon on their original. I don't have the ribbon they had. I didn't really even have a ribbon that I thought would work. So I decided to stamp the bow with, that is in the set, the Curvy Christmas set, with cherry cobbler. And I'm going to just cut it out. And when I hand cut, you can leave a white edge around if you want, like it would be if it were in a die, but I'm going to just cut right next to the lines and not leave any white edging. Again, that's totally up to you. Get that out of the way. And fall has definitely visited us here on the Olympic Peninsula. We've had a lot of wind. I have the neighbors next to me have these huge fir trees, which I love, except when the wind blows and they cover my entire deck with fir berries and needles. And then I have to go out and try to blow them off. And right now it's so wet from the rain that they won't move. So then they get tracked into my house and make a horrible mess. I much rather have fir boughs on my card than on my deck. I had to pick up a bunch of big branches too the other day. Okay, so there's my little bow all cut out, and I'm going to attach it with some mini dimensionals, if I can get my hands on them. Here they are. And I'll just put one at each end of the bow, like that. And I just put a bow right here, like that. And that is my card. Then I like to do the envelopes, and so I took a piece of the designer series paper, and I think I have it right here. Here it is. And after I've cut off my small pieces I needed for the edges here, I've got plenty left, and I take my envelope and I lay it down on the back side where it's not, so I can trace it and it's not going to show. And I just line it up and take my pencil and trace around the flap. You know, you could do a design in it if you wanted. There's some lovely things, and I did a video on that earlier about all the different dies we have where you could cut shapes out of this and then attach it to the flap and it would add another design to it. Today I'm just doing a straight flap. Just like that. Save that. There's enough there to do those edges again. Then I take my adhesive and I run my adhesive on the flap itself, right next to the folded edge and right next to the open edge and down the edges like this. And then I attach it. Just like, oh, turn it over, I want it the red side. Ah, I almost did it. Okay. And like that. And then you can open it up and see if it needs any trimming, and sometimes it does, because I never cut exactly or trace exactly right. And so then I just trim it off, not losing that much to do that. That looks good. That's not enough to worry about. And so there's the flap, and there's the card. I'll show you the picture that I was working from. It was this one right here. And so you can see it's similar, but not exact. And I think it turned out just beautiful, and I hope you enjoy it. I hope you consider purchasing the set. And if you've liked this free video that I've provided, you can link to my store and shop online with me. And your packages comes direct to your door, and you don't have to go out anywhere. Thanks for stopping by.